It's hard to be an entrepreneur. It's lonely. All the responsibilities on yourself. A lot of people decide to do something they don't like or they don't love. I'm walking to the office saying, why am I doing this? Getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, getting used to losing is actually very powerful. That comes from your heart. That maybe is something that they don't want you to do. This morning I woke up and I was in a good mood and I couldn't wait to meet you for breakfast. Whether you make $100,000 a year, $50,000 a year, or $10 million a year becomes irrelevant.
What do you love most about what you do?
There's so many things I like about what I do, but I think probably the thing I like most is that what happens when people grow up and they're done with school is I think a lot of people decide to do something for a living that will provide for their family, will keep them safe, is stable. But unfortunately, and this is very important for you to hear, a lot of people decide to do something they don't like or they don't love. And that's amazing because they're doing it to do something wonderful for their family. And I do believe that in life, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, getting used to losing is actually very powerful. One of the most important things you and your classmates can do is start dealing with adversity. Learning how to deal with losing doing something that's hard for you. Maybe you're good at school, but you're not as good at sports. So starting to do sports so that you lose a little bit. Or maybe you're good at sports, but maybe you're not getting good grades in school and learning how to deal with that judgment. For me, by far the best thing is that I love what I do. Every morning that I wake up, I smile. What is your favorite thing to do in the world? Read, swim, take vacations, watch TV. What is your favorite thing?
I like to do art and read.
Beautiful. Imagine if you could only have to do art and reading your whole life, but you don't have to do anything else. That's why I smile every day. I love being an entrepreneur. I love building businesses. I love making content. I love writing books. I love giving speeches. And so I'm in a place where my whole life, since I was done with school, I got to do something I liked to do. And that's a real blessing.
What is your least favorite thing about being an entrepreneur?
That's a really good question as well. It is a tough one because I do love it so much, but I don't know if it's my least favorite. Let me break this down in a couple of ways. One of my things that I struggle with is when I was your age, the word was not even known. There was no sixth grader who knew what the word entrepreneur was. When I was your age, the only way to be successful, the only way that we were all taught was to go to school and go to the best university that you can go to and then get a job. But I was born in a way where my energy was so different and I wanted to be a businessman. That's what we called it back then. We didn't call it entrepreneur. Wanted to be a businessman. One of the things that I struggle with today, when you say what's one of the toughest channels, is being an entrepreneur became cool.
Yeah.
And there's so many people in this restaurant and so many kids in your class and in between that are gonna go try to be an entrepreneur because it's cool. And they're going to not succeed because it's very hard. It's hard to be an entrepreneur. It's lonely. All the responsibilities on yourself. When you're part of a company, you have a lot of teammates. But when you're the top, it's like being a parent. All the responsibilities on your shoulders. So one thing that I struggle with is that I'm one of the people in the world who probably helped make it cool. And I know that that is wonderful for so many, but for some people, they're gonna go be an entrepreneur and fail, and they're gonna feel like they're a failure, and that I struggle with that. The other thing is there is definitely times where it gets so hard and there's so much pressure. Even though this happens very rarely for me, I think that once or twice a year, I definitely am walking to the office saying, why am I doing this? This is so hard. It's so much better to be the number 2 or the number 3 or the number 4. You get so much of the upside, but you don't get all the pressure. You know what a firefighter is, right? I think of an entrepreneur as a firefighter. Firefighters have a tough job. They have to sit in the firehouse, but they have to be ready at all times for the alarm to go off, and they have to go save someone's life or save a building. That's the same way as an entrepreneur, but you're not waiting around. Every day you're in meetings, dealing with things, but then there might be a super fire that you have to address, And that's pressure because there's never a vacation. Like when you work at a company, you go on vacation, you're very relaxed because you can come back to work and you just pick up where you left off. When you're an entrepreneur like I am, when I'm on vacation, even when I'm sitting here right now with you and your parents, there's a part of my brain that's ready. If you noticed, when your dad was miking us, I looked at my phone. I didn't look at my phone to check the weather. I went to my phone to see my texts in case there was a problem in my office in India or Singapore or Australia or Toronto or LA. That's a lot of pressure, and you have to be built for that.
What advice would you give to 11-year-olds like me who want to be successful in business?
It's a great question. So I think about this a lot. First of all, the first thing I would love is, especially for your generation, is if you guys could redefine success. So let me explain what I mean by that. Me and your parents, we grew up where success meant money. How much money do you make, right? And money's fine, and money has many good benefits and some shortcomings, but what I think the biggest thing that I would tell you is, back to your first question, if you're able to get paid to do something you enjoy, whether you make $100,000 a year, $50,000 a year, or $10 million a year, becomes irrelevant. Defining success should be based on how happy you are every morning. With everything going on in my life, this morning I woke up and I was in a good mood. And I couldn't wait to meet you for breakfast, and I couldn't wait to go on with the rest of my day and do what I have to do. So I think the biggest thing I would tell you is make sure first you define success as being happy and joyous and light, not anxious and concerned and unhappy. After that, I would say two things. Success is actually an incredibly simple formula. Are you good at science?
Maybe.
Yeah.
A little bit.
I was very bad at science at your age. Were you good at science growing up?
I was better at math.
Respect. You?
Just biology. The rest is rubbish.
Respect. So the science of success in business, I think, is very simple. How to get there. In an access, do something, find things you really love, art, but then gain skills that are practical in business. So if you love art, but you don't know how to sell, you're in trouble, because you're gonna make a lot of art that's not gonna sell, and that's not gonna be a career. But you love art, so that means you're gonna make. Some people are great at selling, but they don't sell something they love, so they also can only get so big. So if you can find hard skills, selling, managing, the hard skills of business, but you can put them against something you actually love that will give you the energy to put in the hard work, then I think you have a formula for success. Because remember this forever. One of the most important parts about doing something you love is that hard work is always part of the equation. And if you don't love it, it's gonna be hard for you to work at it every day hard, because it's not fun. It might have money in it, and that's why people end up doing things like that. There's a lot of people who are lawyers who hate being a lawyer. But the reason they became a lawyer is they heard there was money, or their dad was a lawyer and they had a good life and they just decided that was the easy route. So finding something you love, but then working on skills to make it functional, so it's not just a dream, that's the important formula. I think one of the things that when you're very young like you are, that isn't obvious yet for the class is there's nothing that's easy. Everybody's looking for easy. It's just not how life is. Life is predominantly hard with occasional easy. It's falling in love with hard that's important. A doctor or an architect or an executive, or who knows where your life will take you?
Lawyer.
Lawyer, great. So it's funny that I use that. So you want to do that.
Yeah.
So far, that's what you think.
I want to be a lawyer, but I also want to have like an art business, sort of side business.
Well, let me give you an example. You could also become the most prominent art lawyer in the world.
What's an art lawyer?
That's a lawyer that works. There's many different places law is needed in art. For example, I don't know if you know this, but sometimes there's very, very tough things that happen in art. Art is very expensive. And unfortunately, back to the way the world works, sometimes people try to sell something that is fake. So there's some art that's worth $3 million, and somebody made a fake copy of it and sold it for $3 million. Well, then once the person that bought that realizes they bought a fake, they sue the person that sold them. So you might be able to become the best lawyer in the world that knows how to litigate around lawsuits around fraudulent art. So that's a way to mix your two favorite things. One thing that you want to make sure is that you decide to be who you want to be when the time comes. Mom's going to have ideas. Dad's going to definitely have ideas. And some of your teachers are going to have ideas. You're going to watch a piece of content one day on YouTube or somewhere else that's going to give you a new idea. What you want to do is have ideas like you're having now, but always leave the door open for new ideas. Because at 11, you're going to be a very different young woman at 14, and you're going to be very different at 17, and you're going to be very different at 21 and 30. In life, there's different chapters, and you will evolve.
If you could go back in time to 11 years old, what would you change and what would you do better?
11 was a very big year for me because it was the year where I started to get comfortable with not being a great student. As you and your class know, getting good grades is important to definitely to the parents of all of you and to most of you. And so the best thing that happened for me in 6th grade was I was starting to understand that maybe I wasn't going to be the best scholar, but there was other things I could do. And I started to work on being good at trading baseball cards, being good at working. I started to work in the summers at a very young age, shoveling snow in the winter for people. The thing I would change is I'm so lucky to say this. Nothing comes to mind because I'm so grateful for how everything worked out. One of the things that is fun about when you get older is you don't take things for granted as much. And at 11, all that time to play and be free-spirited, I was already starting to think about businesses. And I had my whole life to think about businesses. So maybe I would have played a little bit more and enjoyed my 11-year-old life a little more.
I don't know if you noticed, but like in the first or second question, he said, being uncomfortable.
Being comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Is good, right?
Is good.
Yeah. I watched one of your videos and you said that. I don't know which video it was, but when you speak, it's like you speak with your heart. Like I watch a lot of people speak, right? And when I watch you, you're always like so like alive, basically, and everyone else is like, yeah, so blah, 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 blah. But you are just like, I've watched one video literally 100 times. I think it's a wake up call or something like that.
Yes.
I loved it because like you were so focused into what you were speaking, you didn't get carried away to be talking about something else. So that's what I really like about.
That means a lot to me. Thank you for saying that. I think that goes back to a lot of what we're talking about this morning. I think that what is very important to me and what is very important to me to communicate to the world, let alone the youth, is when you are in your true state, then you're set. Meaning, what I don't want for you to ever do is to over-rationalize. It's a big word, but it's an important word. And this is going to be a challenge, when you have parents that you clearly admire and love so much, and they clearly love and admire you, one of your biggest challenges is going to be having the strength to do something that's in your heart, that comes from your heart, that maybe is something that they don't want you to do. It's a very big moment in someone's life who has the great luxury that you have. I had what you have. I have parents who love me so deeply, and I love them back. But I will tell you that some of the best decisions in my life were obvious to me, but not obvious to my parents at the time. Amanah, I think I actually really want you to hear this. I've spent a little time with you. If you have good intent, however you deliver it will always be right. In the bag or out of the bag. You understand?
Sir, do you want to open it?
I'd be happy to open it. Wow, it's heavy. Like really heavy. Oh my goodness. This is unbelievable. This is unbelievable.
to mommy, right?
It sure is. Amanah, you made this?
Yes. So first I spent some time looking for photos of you, and I found some nice ones. And after I did that, I modeled them to 3D. And Gary, have you ever tried, what was it? Burning a leaf with a magnifying glass and the sun?
I have not,
Okay.
but
Well,
I'm aware of the action. I know what it's like.
So what happens is the sun goes into the magnifying glass, and the magnifying glass burns the leaf. But in this case, we use a laser, and the laser points into a lens that creates cracks into the crystal. And after, like a million cracks later, there's your photo floating in 3D.
It's super cool. This is so wonderful. How long does it take for the laser to make that?
30 minutes, sort of.
Oh, not yet. I'll do that. Look at this. Well, I'll keep it on green. That's my favorite color. What's your favorite color?
I like green, but my top favorite is pink. I know people are like, that's such a girly color, but I learned that pink is meant for everyone, right?
Yeah, do you know that?
Pink Shirt Day.
You know what's funny? Hundreds of years ago, pink was originally a boy's color. Makes sense. I like pink a lot too.
I like pink and green.
Yeah, green. This is amazing.
Because everything that we have to most of it that we have to survive is green.
Do you know what my biggest challenge is going to be about all of this?
What?
Is that when my father sees that my mother has this huge heart and he has a little box keychain, he's going to be very upset with me. Well, I gotta say, you picked really, really, really good pictures.
Just blame it on us.
Yeah, some of my favorite. I will. I totally get it.
Was it a productive meeting overall?
I'm going to answer it in a very different way. I'm going to answer that this hour that I've spent with you, I've told many of my friends, I've always said that there are 11-year-olds that are actually 6, and there are 11-year-olds that are actually 14. I think you are the latter. I think that you are very clearly capable. You're welcome.